Hello and welcome to Level Up and Friends, where those of us from the video game comic book store, Level Up Entertainment, get together. Well, it used to be each week. Now it's just whenever we have something to talk about. um, our podcast. We're coming up to the end of 2021. It's about to be 2022. So time for our annual This Year Didn't Completely Suck awards. So I've got most of the staff from both of our stores are here. We picked some of our best things from 2021 that we experienced. And we're going to have a little bit of a discussion of it. I'm your host, Scott, and joining me is Greg.
Hey, what's going on?
We got Joe.
Present.
We've got Harry.
What's going on, everybody?
We got John.
Hey, how are you guys?
We've got Danny.
Hey.
And last but not least, we've got Molly.
Hello.
I didn't miss anyone, right? Because I don't have everyone on my screen since we're screen sharing.
That's
I
everybody.
mean,
No,
I
it's
was
everybody.
here, so.
Right. I was trying to remember the order everyone showed up in the room for. But yeah. So if everyone excited about 2021 being over?
God, yes.
Yeah.
I mean, the year was okay. We got married, so that was exciting.
Oh my God, was that this year? I was there. That felt
Yeah.
like so long ago. Jesus. But yeah, so I think we'll start with our first category, which is like the weirdest to explain, which is best surprises. We started doing this one last year because 2020 was so bad. I was like, we need to have one that's just about a positive experience that happened. So this is kind of things that happened this year that were a pleasant surprise, or we were surprised we enjoyed, or something along those lines. So I think we're going to do this one alphabetical order. So Danny, why don't you tell us about your best surprise of 2021?
Sure. So I picked the Sailor Moon Eternal movies coming out on Netflix. The fact that they even got localized without it taking forever, because I know the films got pushed back a while because of COVID. So I didn't even expect them to release part one, let alone both parts at the same time. And I believe they did it internationally as well. So the fact that like all Sailor Moon fans all over the world can watch it like together on the same platform, which is really, really cool.
That's cool. Did they have the other like Sailor Moon series on there, or is it just the Eternal movies?
I think they have some of the original series up on Netflix, or it's either that or Crystal. Because Crystal, this is like the tie-in movie. They basically just, instead of doing like the fourth arc of the manga as like the Crystal animated series, they just did it as two movies, which I think was probably a better idea because the manga's pacing is so fast that it's just like, yeah, you could do it as a movie. It's a lot easier.
Yeah, you're my Sailor Moon expert, so I trust your opinion on this stuff.
Yes, I am.
All right. So Greg and Harry, it's funny that you guys would both be next, but you guys have kind of the same pick. So I guess we'll start with Greg first, and then Harry can respond to it.
Sure. Yeah, I picked since I'm one of the owners right now. I picked that we opened the second location because it's pretty cool doing that in the middle of a pandemic. We didn't know how things would work out and how quickly we could find a place that was ready to go. This location was great. It was ready to move in right away. It was it worked out really well. I mean, it took a little longer than we wanted to get open, but that's because of the pandemic. But it was a nice surprise to get it open. It was a nice surprise for everybody to see, to make a little happiness, I guess, for everybody, whether part of the store family or extended being a customer of ours or whatever. It was nice to be able to spread that, and I'm just looking forward to being there and doing lots of cool things in that area. So that's why I picked as the best surprise.
Yeah, and I'm pretty much the same as Greg. I feel like when I look back at 2021, opening the new store and being a part of that and working on it is probably going to be one of the things I most remember about this year. It was fun sort of keeping that a surprise and then being able to unveil it when we were ready to open. And the Summers Point store, it's got so many different spaces and possibilities that we could use that space for. And I'm just really looking forward to, when hopefully things open up and what we can do in 2022. I just can't wait for the way that we'll be able to use that space creatively and have the Summers Point and Mays Landing stores work together to put on even better events than we've always done.
Yeah,
Here,
it's
here.
yeah, it's I'm looking forward to now that the madness of the holidays is over. Now we can focus on doing more fun things rather than, just getting through the holidays, because it's make just busy, both personally and professionally. But yeah, so yeah, the second location's been fun working out. The response has been nice. Since Joe and I spend most of our time there now, it's also nice to work with you on a very regular basis now, Joseph.
Yeah, I would have put that as my surprise as well, because it's been a surprise to have, I've been a part of Level Up stuff for, the beginning
14
of
years,
Yeah.
14
So
years
to
now.
now
14 and a half.
officially be, part of it all has been really cool. And I started every now and then I call it, I have to go home. And then I go, no, I'm going to work. It's not home, it's work.
Oh,
But-
dude, I call that store home all the time because I spend more time there than I do at my house.
Pretty, right there too. Yeah.
At least
Yeah,
it's spacious.
Yeah, it's very,
Got some
very
room.
open.
Get lots of drop-ins, lots of unexpected guests.
Yeah.
But Joseph,
Yes.
you're on deck now.
I see what you did there.
Yeah, what's your best surprise here?
I mean, it's an all-encompassing one. In general, the whole thing was, I'm a baseball guy. I talked about it on my podcast before about last season being weird with everything. This season, there was full of surprises with the Giants, my team of choice, winning like 104 games or 107 games, winning the West, weird stuff. But I guess the biggest surprises would be Shohei Ohtani, like just dominating pitching and hitting. Like he won the AL MVP. He started in the All-Star game. I'm pulling up his stats because I have to. Like
He home run derby.
yeah, he was just insane as a DH and a pitcher. So he batted in every game, pitched every 5 or 6 days, and like it's just insane because you don't see that often. Either you're a pitcher or you're a hitter, not really one or the other. And he was crazy at it. Like he hit. I'm trying to find it. There it is. He had 46 home runs, like 13 wins. I think like a 3 ERA or something like that. It was overwhelmingly great to see for the game, as like I love watching baseball. But there's a podcast about it if you want to go back and watch, and we'll do another one at some point.
It's
But-
one of our longest podcasts. It's it's the
okay.
three of you talking about baseball for like 2
So
hours.
good. Oh, so much fun with that one.
It's one of my favorite ones to listen to. I really like that one.
Yeah, so I won't go long with it, but his year and just the dominance that he had playing basically on a team where, the big name on the Angels has always been Mike Trout, local boy, but he wasn't in the lineup that much because he got hurt. But Shohei just still crushed the ball, and the team could be good if they get pitching, but who the heck knows? But yeah, that's kind of my surprise. Baseball and Ohtani playing, exceeding the expectations of what he could do as a two-way player.
And I know he had really high expectations. Is he like the best Japanese baseball player of all time or something?
No,
Okay.
no, I will put my money behind. I mean, there's a lot, but I'll put my money behind Ichiro. As over from the U.S. to here. I mean, he's got over 3,000 hits. He's got the record for most hits in a season, like at 215 or something like that.
I mean,
Together-
Ohtani still has a lot of years left, like
yeah, it was Otani's sophomore season this year.
Yeah.
He's so brand new to this league.
It's such a shame he plays on the Angels. If he was like on the Yankees, I mean, we'd be hearing about him every single night in every sport.
Yeah.
It'd be like Tom Brady levels of media coverage, and the guy gets buried because he's out in LA.
well, if we're gonna wish him to be on a team, we're a Phillies podcast. Sorry, John.
Yeah, for those that can't see, I have a Yankees hat on right now.
Well, speaking of you, John, because if I don't derail this conversation, we'll go on about baseball for like 1,000 years.
That is true. You're right.
So, John, you're up next. What was your biggest surprise pick?
Yeah, my biggest surprise was the announcement of TMNT Shredder's Revenge, the game that's coming out sometime next year. It looks really good. We haven't had a Turtles game come out for a few years now, and they're going back to the basics and back to good 2D platformer games. So yeah, I'm pretty excited for this. The trailer looked really good. Their new playable characters look cool. I'm
Have they
hyped.
announced anyone after April yet?
I don't think so. I think it's only April, but I would assume we're gonna get at least 1 or 2 more playable characters.
There'll probably some DLC packs, whether it be free or not. But I not to Bogart John, but yeah, that was like my top. What do I want? My big surprise, like that was definitely up there for me too. Like I'm super stoked for
Yeah.
that.
And I believe it's the same development team who did Streets of Rage 4, right?
Yeah, I believe so.
'Cause
Maybe I don't know.
I just picked that up because it's on sale and like it's really
Streets of
good.
Rage 4 is awesome.
Yeah. So yeah, John, this is everyone knows this is a thing that's close to my heart, and
Yeah.
I'm also excited for it. I think if it came out this year, it might be not to spoil my things too like later, but I think it would have been something I'll talk about later.
I think it did get delayed.
Yeah,
'Cause I
wasn't
think
it supposed to come out this year?
fall. It was supposed to come out, and now it got pushed back to sometime in 2022.
Well, I like Miyamoto saying that a delayed game is eventually good, a rush game or bad, a rush game is bad forever. Not so much true anymore because they can just patch it, but
Yeah.
I'd rather
No.
it looks extremely promising. And
Yeah.
I've been recently playing the arcade games myself because I got the Turtles in Time 1-Up cabinet for Christmas.
Mhm.
So I'm like at an all-time hype level for it right now. But we'll definitely talk about that more. When
as a quick thing, it was Scott Pilgrim they worked on, not
Oh, was it Scott Pilgrim? Scott Pilgrim's also great.
yeah, that's what they worked on. I mean, among other things, but that's the team, like the team they were called something different at the time, but the basic team that made this up is Scott Pilgrim.
Well, the Scott Pilgrim game is really good. But Molly, we're up to you now. How about you?
Okay, so it's been a very long time since I've read any comic books. To the point where it's like probably Umbrella Academy was like the last series of comic books that I read. Actually, the Killjoys series, because that's the more recent one, done by Gerard Way. And then I got recommended Stray Dogs. I'm pretty sure it's Wes who told me about it, and then was like, did you see all the horror covers? Because I'm also a horror fan. So I was like, all right, cool. So I picked it up and I was like, wow, this is a lot more brutal than I thought it was going to be, especially considering the covers like have the characters on them, and the characters very much remind me of like Bluth, like All Dogs Go to Heaven type like animation. And it's supposedly getting turned into a movie, or a show. I don't know if like that's like or when that's happening, but that would be really awesome, and I'd love to see that. That was my big surprise.
Yeah, this book was awesome. This book really got a lot of people into like comic books this year. I think it had the best free comic book day book too, because it was like the first issue, and then like a prelude or something like that within like the free comic book too. It was really cool.
I just picked up the new one, the Dog Days one. I haven't like skimmed through it yet because I'm excited, but I want to have time to read it.
Yeah, it came out today actually.
Yes.
Oh yes, yeah. I know it just came out, but it's like all the days and weeks of comics blend together in my brain. I just, but yeah, it did just come out today. So it's the first in a 2-part series. And I know the horror movie cover for this one is Creepshow, which is pretty cool.
Very excited about that too, because I also love Creepshow. So
yeah, I should have like it's one of those books where I was like, I'm not gonna get it, and then I should have gotten like just because because I had the horror movie homage. That's why I got all the deceased homage covers. Like I like also really in the horror movies too, and just I should have jumped on it, but I didn't because
it's one of those books that kind of came out of nowhere, and it's like because I don't know any of the creative team on it. I don't know any of those people. I don't know what they've done.
I've heard of the writer, but I don't remember where from though.
I think I only read like the first 1 or 2 issues. We talked about it in like last spring on the podcast. We're talking about some of the new books that just came out. And I read a bunch of the new number 1s that had recently been out so I could talk about them a little. And Stray Dogs was cool, but like knowing me, I was waiting for the trade to come out. And then when it did, it kept selling out. So I just never got it. Like we kept selling through them. whenever we order them, so I haven't just had the chance to sit down with it yet.
It's really cool to just see this as like a sleeper hit, because I remember just being on the shelf and then it's like 2 weeks later, it was just like, oh, we can't keep this thing in the store, and
Yeah,
everyone's talking about it.
Well, the
it's
fact that they've
exciting
come
when
out
yeah.
with like all kinds of like second printings. And it wasn't there like a third or fourth printing for
There was,
I
yeah.
got so many.
yeah. I like that they also changed up like the covers for each of the printings too. They didn't just like rehash.
Yeah.
Yeah, it wasn't just
That's
Silence of the
good.
Lambs, but it's red, you know, like
Yeah.
it was really nice to see people get excited about a comic book and like coming in the store and like people like regular Joe's kind of asking for it, and B, is really exciting that they did it for something that wasn't from Marvel or DC.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's really cool to see. Like I mean, it's what Image, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, it's still a creator owned thing. So Stray Dogs is really cool. I'm glad that it happened and people responded to it. And then for the last one of the surprise picks is my own. And I'm going to make this real quick because not everyone on this call has watched Spider-Man Far From Home. I keep doing that. It's No Way Home.
Yeah.
I wish they were.
I've seen Far From Home.
The most recent, the third Tom Holland Spider-Man movie. My surprise is not what happened in the movie, because I kind of expected it. My surprise was like at myself for actually enjoying that versus like being like, oh yeah, of course they did that. Like because I feel nothing when I watch Marvel movies now. It's just because like, oh, you kind of see them coming a mile away, and like they just feel like they're going through the motions. But this was really good, and by the end I was like, all right, we finally have Spider-Man. Let's I can't wait for the next one, and then I don't know if it's going to happen or not. But you know, but I'm going to leave that at that. As dear listeners, this movie will come up a few more times in our discussion tonight. Because of that, we are going to do a full spoiler podcast later. Probably record that in a week or so, and we'll have that to look forward to. So we're not going to dwell on Spider-Man too much. Real quick, this is a new one added. I think it was Becca's suggestion. We're going to do best tabletop game / RPG. And I should mention that Becca is not here. She does have picks. You can see all of the complete stuff on our website, levelupentertainment.com. I realized I didn't put the names on these ones, so I will fix that. When you guys hear this, it will be fine. But for this one, let's start with John.
Oh yeah, I chose the Cuphead fast rolling dice game. I haven't played it personally, but it looks really fun, and I started playing the game Cuphead a few weeks ago. It's a hard game. I did not expect it to be as challenging as it is. But this tabletop board game looks really fun.
Yeah, we had a demo of it in the Summers Point store a week or two ago, so I came in early so I could play it. It's really, really cool. It's also extremely difficult.
Okay.
We almost died on the first boss, and they're like, oh yeah, here's 10 more. You're supposed to beat them all back to back, because there's like a shop and stuff in the middle of it. You do it in between. It's like, oh god, and like you don't get health back. But it's funny how much it like keeps the mechanics, because there's like a companion app that basically is a counter for 20 seconds, but it plays like Cuphead music when you're doing it. And each boss has like cards each round, and you have to like roll your dice to match them. And if you don't, like you take a damage. You can get parries and stuff. It's really simple and like, but it's like surprisingly deep.
Yeah, like I'm not a big like tabletop or like board game fan, but I think this is like one of those games that I could see myself getting into.
Yeah, we have a demo copy at the store now. We will probably play that. In the next couple of days. We'll probably play that next time we do a game night.
Yeah, that sounds good.
Looking forward to that. Let's see. Let's do Harry real quick.
Oh, all right. So mine is the game Ascension. I know it's not a 2021 game, but that's when we were introduced to it. My girlfriend and I, as part of the lockdown, we haven't been able to have the game nights that we normally would, especially with a lot of you guys here on the call. So for me, I wanted to find something that was just as fun with 2 players as it is with 4, and you can actually have up to 5 in this game. It's a really fun deck builder game where you're trying to purchase community cards, and then you add them to your pile. And then as you keep playing, your pile gets better and better cards, and you're trying to get more points than the other players. I just found Ascension to be, I've played a couple of deck building games. I found this one to be a really good intro especially for new players who are new to tabletop gaming in general. And then there's also all kinds of different expansions to this that kind of change the rules, and they'll add a mechanic or take away a mechanic. So there's a lot of different flavors to Ascension, but the base game I think is really, really fun, and it's one of my favorites from 2021.
Yeah. Let's see. Let's do Joe next.
I went with Wavelength because it's the only tabletop game I played this year. Because
that's why I don't have a pick. So I didn't play anything this year.
I am not a tabletop game guy. Usually on our game nights, I end up in the other room sitting on the couch with a cup of coffee. It's usually my MO. But I was sort of like, you have to play this. And it was fun. It's just basically, it's a guessing game. You try to guess where people would put like on a dial there of like how much they're one thing or the other. So it's just a lot of like trying to guess and trying to read whoever is messing with the dial's mind to try to figure out where it is and try to not overthink but don't underthink kind of thing. And it leads to a lot of time to be real funny and kind of make people laugh and joke, and that's always fun to me. So
yeah, it's one of those ones where it helps when you know your friends and stuff. As I think one of the first rounds we did, I was the person that like hid the Wavelength. Like I was like the guy for my team, and it was like between being like other crap and a masterpiece, and I said Breath of the Wild, so people were like, oh, it's immediately masterpiece. Like, no, Scott doesn't like it as much as everyone else, so we had to fine tune it a little bit. Like it's fun.
It's great when you're with a bunch of people to play it.
Yeah,
that was it. That's the only board game I played all year, and maybe the only board game I've played in the last 2 years.
So, yeah, it's a great
fantastic pick.
Yeah, it's a great party game, and we carry it now. But speaking of great party games, now when we played this, we also played Danny's pick. So
Yes.
Why don't you tell us about that?
So Don't Get Got is basically, it's a game that you play with a bunch of people while you're doing other things. It's like a game you kind of play in the background of other games or just life. You have a list of missions. You have to do secret missions, and you have to try to accomplish them without someone thinking that you're doing it as part of the game. So let's say like there's a task that everyone gets, which is say, hey, guess what? And someone's supposed to say what back, and then you say you got. And that one you can't fail, but there will be other tasks on your list. Like I know one that a friend of mine got was fold a paper airplane, throw it at someone, and have them throw it back at you. And you have to do all of that without them going, hey, is this for the game? Because if they call you out on that, you instantly fail that mission and you can't try again. And this version specifically has Shut Up and Sit Down, which is a board game reviewer. They added their own missions to it because they have a really funny review about the game. But basically they made up missions for this edition specifically as just like extra things you can do to play. It's a really good fun party game, and it's just neat since you just played in the background of other things and have little secret missions and just do dumb, silly things throughout the night.
Yeah, I remember one of the missions I got to succeed is I had to have someone tell me what their age is, which is like, that doesn't come up in conversation. So I just asked your husband how old he is. And he was like, oh, this is that. And he didn't think that was weird. I just asked it completely unannounced. Oh, that worked. But all my other ones were really hard to do.
Yeah, some are definitely harder, depending on kind of like whatever situation you're in. But I saw the paper airplane one be done, and I was just like, oh yeah, he's just having fun making an airplane, like whatever.
Didn't you get your husband to do something? Wasn't like make someone give you a glass of water or something?
I probably did. He gets me stuff all the time, so it's just like, yeah, do this for me. I can also talk a little bit about Becca's pick because I played it.
Oh, I've played it with her and her husband, and I won, so it's my favorite game ever.
Oh, I was terrible at it.
It's the
but-
Search for Planet X. It's kind of like a logic game where you have to like get clues, and then like you kind of need to figure out where Planet X is. It's played via an app, but it's hard to explain. But once you start playing it, it makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, if you've played like a logic puzzle before where it's like, okay, X can be near Y, but if Z is near A, that's like crosses out
Yeah.
this rule. It's a lot of like different rules to follow of like, okay, this can't be next to this can be next to this. If this is here, this is next to that. And then the app like gives you different hints and clues, and you're basically just trying to race to win to see who finds the missing planet.
It's kind of like Battleship in a way where there's not one person on either side. Like nobody knows the actual map like layout.
Yes, yeah, I think
The app,
that's a
the
good
app handles all
analysis.
that. But yeah, and then Molly's got one I think we've all played at some point.
Yeah, I can't imagine that nobody's played Cards Against Humanity before. Like,
Yeah.
literally every year at some point. Actually, I played a newer edition of it because apparently they put out one every single year.
Oh,
There's so
wow.
many expansions to it. Yeah.
Yeah, they like put out new cards, and we were playing it on Christmas. I was like, I don't remember this card being in here. And I played Cards Against Humanity a lot because like it's just the thing that you do at any kind of party you're at for the most part.
Yeah.
At least like I have. But I was like, oh, that's kind of cool. There's like Joe Biden cards in there, and like one of them was like Kamala Harris. I was like, okay, cool. That's awesome.
Okay. And then real quick, mine is the only RPG on the board here. I played some Scum and Villainy, and to be fair, we're barely in the beginning of the campaign, but it's really cool so far. It's a Powered by the Apocalypse type game, but instead of being like a fantasy or post-apocalyptic thing, it's basically Star Wars and Star Trek just without the license, because there's like essentially like the Force in it as well. Like you can be a character that uses that. But as the name implies with Scum and Villainy, you're basically playing like mercenaries and rogues. I'm a ship's doctor because the first ability you get is I'm a doctor, not a ellipses. So I was like, perfect. So I haven't decided what my character's personality is going to completely be yet, but I kind of really want to be a grumpy space doctor. But you get to build your own aliens and stuff. It's really cool. It's really flexible. Like one of the things I was worried about is we don't have a dedicated mechanic or engineer, but a lot of those skills like kind of fall into like the pilot and like other stuff. So we're not, if our warp core starts bursting, like won't necessarily mean we'll immediately die, which is exciting. Because I was like, well, I should probably be that instead of the doctor, but I can't not be like a Bones character. So, but yeah, so we're gonna move on from that, and now we're gonna get to probably the ones people are most excited about. We're gonna do best TV show / movie, because the way stuff's been released the last couple of years, it's like, yeah, kind of it depends on release schedule and stuff. So people have the option between TV show or movie. So
I picked both.
yeah.
I have one when you can have two.
I was going to say, well, John and Molly, you both picked the same thing.
We did, yeah.
So you guys want to, quickly talk about Spider-Man again?
I don't think that I can actually say why that was my favorite movie without being spoilery, but like mine is similar to your like thing about it being a big surprise because of the nostalgia thing. So that's why I picked it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of surprises in this movie. Man, it was so good. If you haven't already seen this movie, I would watch it because you're missing out.
Here's
I
the
will
best
say-
way. Oh, sorry.
I just want to give like an honorable mention to a TV show that I watched this year though too. It was called Only Murders in the Building on Hulu.
That show was great.
It was
so good.
fantastic. It was a really good show, and honest to God, like if Spider-Man: No Way Home didn't come out, that would have been my pick. But
It was very good. I would agree with you.
Yeah, my TV show was The Boys.
Yeah, I can't remember Harry or I picked The Boys last year, but The Boys usually gets represented on here.
Yeah, I actually really like it a lot. I haven't read the adjoining comic book, but I've been told that the comic book actually isn't even as good as the show is, which I'm not
That
surprised
might have
by.
been me that said that. I do not like the comic. I really like.
Somebody else said that to me too. I was like, okay.
Yeah.
I mean, that's fair, but also I actually like it in like its physical form too. But that's like kind of why I didn't pick the one that you picked.
Yeah.
Because that was my other choice.
But yeah, the best way I found to describe Spider-Man's the nostalgia angle without really spoiling it is like it worked in a way that Ghostbusters Afterlife didn't, where it doesn't actually define the characters in the movie, the nostalgia stuff.
Yeah, it wasn't
Does
like a
that make
fan service
sense?
thing.
Yeah, it's not. It's a lot of fan service, but not only fan service.
Yeah, I mean this movie did a really good job of incorporating pretty much every character that we've seen in like the Homecoming trilogy.
Yeah.
And characters that we haven't seen in this trilogy yet.
Okay. So again, we'll do a whole episode on Spider-Man where we'll talk spoilers on it. But let's stick with the MCU, and I know Harry's also had lots of podcasts about his pick, so we probably won't need to spend too much time on it.
Yeah, so I picked The Falcon and the Winter Soldier, which is the Disney Plus series. And, I feel like the Disney Plus series have been really, really good. Hawkeye just wrapped up, and there was Loki and What If and WandaVision before this one. But I picked this one because of a few reasons. One, WandaVision, while it was very good, it was a little bit more self-contained. And I felt like Falcon and the Winter Soldier did a really good job of kind of showing what the Marvel Universe looks like after Endgame. What the blip did to sort of the world at large. And it also kind of decided to delve into topics like racial equality and justice and things, the police state and some other things that, are hot button issues in the real world. And I was a little surprised to see Disney or a Disney property even going there. I mean, there's a lot of people that said they could have gone a little bit further or maybe wish that they spent a little bit more time in some of these issues. But for any sort of Disney property to even start touching them, I think that was a pretty big deal. And it also showed that these Disney Plus series, they're going to be pretty influential on the MCU as a whole. Some of the characters will show up in the movies, and you kind of have to watch these series in order to understand what's going on. So we also did the Level Up Watches podcast, which I'll throw out here, where we went through this series one episode at a time. And that was a lot of fun too. So Falcon and the Winter Soldier, that's my pick.
Okay. I haven't gotten around to watching that. I've only watched 2 of the MCU ones. I watched WandaVision. I just watched Hawkeye. I wasn't terribly impressed by either. So maybe
there's something wrong with you. WandaVision was fantastic, but we won't get into that here and now. And I haven't watched Hawkeye yet, but I don't think I got a chance to yet.
So.
WandaVision's ending ruined the series for me.
Yeah. All right. Well, again, not to get off topic, but I can understand what you're saying a little bit, but we're not going to talk about more than that.
Yeah,
but
we don't even pick WandaVision as the best TV show.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
Speaking of best TV shows, I guess, Greg, since you were talking, let's do yours.
Well, my TV show wasn't a TV show; it was a movie.
Is it a movie? I don't know what it is. I've never heard of it until you told me to put this on the list.
No, it's great. Like that's why, it was a. I saw it a preview for it years ago, and I kind of forgot about it. And then I don't know what jogged my memory, but I was like, oh, let me see if I can find it. And it was on some station. I don't remember what Hulu or whatever, one of those pay ones. It's called Anna and the Apocalypse. Basically, it blends 3 genres: musicals, Christmas movie, and horror into one awesome, fantastic movie. Basically, it's an Australian-made movie. I think it was 2019, 2018, something like that. But the basic gist of it is a zombie outbreak happens like every other, it's very cliche in that aspect, but what they do with the characters and the music's excellent. Like it's on par with like musicals like that were on Broadway and that kind of stuff. And it blends these genres together really well, and you care about these characters. It was just a really fun movie. I would recommend watching if you could watch it, whether it costs $4 or it's free somewhere where you find it. It's just, if you like any of those 3 types of movies or all 3, I think you'll really like this movie. It's really, really good. And the actual actors are pretty much like high school age and that's how it kind of takes place. So it's actually like not like, oh, look, these 40-year-olds are playing 18-year-olds. Yay. But yeah, that was my pick for this year. It really, it really made that day I saw it, like it really made my day to see how good that was.
Cool. Let's go with you now, Joe. So I think your show was on tonight, right? Isn't it?
It was. It's Wednesday night. You know what that means.
It's time for Dynamite.
Yeah, mine's tough because I don't watch I watch TV, but I don't watch shows. I don't watch movies really. I don't think the last movie I saw in the movie theater was, I couldn't even tell you. I think it was in black and white. There was no talking. Who the heck knows what it was? I went with the only show that I kind of watch regularly. I didn't want to put baseball games because I watch that a lot. And I watch old wrestling because it's just part of growing up. So I went with the AEW Dynamite. It's on Wednesday nights on TNT until next week when it's on TBS going forward. It's just another wrestling promotion. Like, it's not WWE. It's not Impact. It's a different thing. A lot of people in it are from like Ring of Honor, and they did NJPW, different wrestling promotions. I just really like it. It seems fresh. It seems new. The matches are good. It has the feel of the old stuff a little bit, mixed in with a lot of the newer stuff. I don't know. I just enjoy it. And it was on, and while we were getting prepared, I was watching it on my phone, so I can keep up with it. But it's like the only thing I've watched pretty regularly.
It's really cool live too.
Yeah.
Yeah, I haven't gone to see the live show because I think I had a chance to go when it first came around Philly, but it was like downpouring that day, and I decided not to go. And then
aren't they? Did it already pass? Isn't it coming to Atlantic City?
They are coming to in February, which is bizarre, but yeah, they're coming to Atlantic City to Boardwalk Hall, I believe. So where Miss America was, they'll be wrestling. So, but yeah, I that's my pick.
All right, let's move on to Danny then.
I picked Odd Taxi, which is an anime series that is probably one of the best shows I've seen in a long time. And what's really interesting with it is that it's a show where all the characters play some sort of role, no matter how minor they are. It's really interconnected in every episode, and it's just some really tight, well done writing. But basically just is that there's this taxi driver. He's a walrus, like everyone in the show is anthropomorphic animals, and he ends up being a key character in this case for this missing black cat, who was last seen riding in his taxi. And since he's a taxi driver, he ends up interacting with a bunch of different characters because they get in his taxi and he takes them somewhere. But he basically gets caught up in a big scandal and a bunch of other things happen. It's really well done. I want to shove this show into everyone's face. And if you watch any anime at all in the next 5 years or whatever, please watch this. It is really, really good.
Is it streaming anywhere? Is it on Netflix or Hulu or anything?
We watched it on Verve, I think, which is connected with Crunchyroll. But it's short. It's 12 or 13 episodes, so you can get through it really quick.
When I was finding pictures for it, I was like, man, all these character designs are awesome. I should probably watch this.
Oh, please watch it. Please, yeah. I'm begging you. Oh my gosh. It's so good.
All right, and I guess I'll finish this off here. I'll keep it kind of quick because I did a whole podcast episode on this as well. So if you want to hear my thoughts more in detail, watch the Invincible episode. Every year we have to pick something from Amazon Prime, I guess. And they seem to have only really 2 good shows. So, they had The Tick and they canceled that. So, forget that. But Invincible is really good. I was a big fan of the comic series. The stuff they changed and added to it, I think, suits at least this medium a lot better. And it was one of those things like Stray Dogs. It was really exciting to see people get excited about something a little bit more off the beaten path, something a little bit different. And it's one of the few things that translated directly to comic book sales, which is always exciting. So it's fun to see people get back into the comics who didn't get into it before. I was reading this 20 years ago, before The Walking Dead took over, and Robert Kirkman made that his life instead of this. But I very much enjoyed Invincible. This was a good year for TV. Because I was trying to debate between like this and Squid Game, and I was like, I think I just liked Invincible
Oh, I
more.
forgot that came out this year. Yeah.
Yeah.
Should we touch on Becca's pick or?
Nah, Becca's not here. People can go online and find out what she got.
All right.
All right, so we're going to move on to best collectible. We only got 3 categories left. Let's start with Molly.
It's always going to be a music related one for this because and it's the Black Parade's album cover pop. I don't really collect pop vinyls figures. I have a lot of them, but like they're very specifically like for each one. Like I have all of the MCR individual ones. I was very excited about this one because I actually do have the conductor from this album as a tattoo on my arm. So like that was why I picked it. And also it's just a good album. So
All right, cool. Let's Harry, why yours is kind of a strange one. Why don't you explain that to us?
I'm Level Up's resident pinball guy, and so my choice was the Ghostbusters pinball machine by Stern Pinball. Now that is a little bit of a cheat because it came out in 2016. It did not come out in 2021. However, it's new for the store. It was added to the lineup over at Summers Point this year. So I thought, you know what, that could be a best of 2021 collectible. And better yet, it's one that everybody gets to play and enjoy and experience. So it's basically with all the Ghostbusters hype. It's based on the first 2 movies, the 1984 original and then the sequel. But you know, you get a lot of the lines and the different artwork and scene represent different scenes in the movie. So if you enjoyed Afterlife, you know, you can go back and get some of the references here in this. And you know, I will always pick pinball as my favorite collectible of any given year. So I love this game. It's a little bit on the harder side, but I think it'll make you a better pinball player as you play it a little bit more and more.
Cool. Yeah, so one cool thing about the pinball game in our store, it's was it signed by Ernie Hudson and
Dan Aykroyd.
Yeah.
We got
He
the
signed it
Translate
against my
signed.
back, so I'm really excited about it.
We got the Translate signed, and yeah, it's kind of cool. I think you can see it better when the machine's off, but it's up there in the back glass.
Yeah, it's really cool. It's one of my favorite pinball games, one of my favorite movies. Let's see. Who are we doing next? Let's go to John.
My pick for best collectible was the Marvel Gallery comic Mysterio. It's like a statue. It's like a budget friendly statue. I think we have it at the store for around $50. But it's really nice. It's a good like starter statue in case you're like looking to collect Spider-Man villains. And it kind of follows the theme of the Spider-Man movies going on. But it's a nice design, and for the price, it's worth it.
Yeah, I think Mysterio is Greg's favorite villain too, right?
Close, shocker.
Okay, I knew it was one of those like lesser talked about Spider-Man guys.
Mysterio, like, not to get into much of that, but Mysterio was like, he was okay for me until the Kevin Smith run on Daredevil, and made him awesome to me. Like they made him really cool. So if you can read that, you should read that because that's such a great Daredevil story.
Okay, let's do Danny next.
Mine is something I'll never be able to afford at this point, but it's the Sailor Moon Sume Art HQS statue. It was a limited edition statue that came out this year of Sailor Moon's Moon Spiral Heart Attack from the 3rd season of the original anime. Just really detailed, really beautiful. I love how fluid like the poses with the ribbon and the hair flowing. It was originally going for $600 and now it's like going for $2,000 on eBay, which makes me want to cry, but I can look at the JPEGs at least and think about what it could have been. So definitely not affordable like John's pick, but a nice dream to dream.
I mean, I just realized they're both doing sort of similar-esque poses. So, all right, let's do Joe because there's a nice synergy between Greg and mine. So we'll end with those.
All right. I went with the Macho Man Ultimate Collection Edition figure There's a lot of like I collect weird stuff. So I collect like glassware and that, but I didn't get any glassware this year, so I couldn't put like a McDonald's glass from like 1974. So I only go with what like I get. So last year's I had the McDonald's pop figures because I thought it was weird that they had Grimace and Mayor McCheese and the Hamburglar and all those kind of things. But this year I went with the Macho Man because it's the only real thing I got as a collectible. Yes, I'm a wrestling guy, and I like the Macho Man. If you've seen me in the store, I usually have the Macho Man mask on. And this figure matches up with the pop I have of him, actually. But I got it as an anniversary gift. So it's like in my living room, still in the box. It depicts a time in like the early 90s where like I was still like 10, 11, 12 years old watching wrestling and like really loving it. So like it has a sentimental value for me as well because it reminds me of that time. There's other figures that came out that I have also purchased that didn't come out this year. And I was like, I must have, for me, it was like a collectible. I collected it. But now I have one of those things I would have put. It's the random elite figure of the Zodiac, which was Brutus the Barber Beefcake's like alter ego in WCW. It's very weird, very bizarre. Shouldn't ever be a figure, and now it is. So that's my pick. It's very weird, but it's for, you can find it online. You can go to different sites. You can find it in Targets and stuff like that. It's around. It's readily available, so it's not like a hard collectible to try to find. So,
all right, Greg. Now on the website, I picked Rodimus specifically to recommend for this, but I don't know if you didn't tell me a particular character.
No, I like my favorite collectible this year was the Kingdom toys for Transformers. It was the close second was a studio series because this year they did a run of the Transformers '86 movie, which is my favorite movie of all time, except for Wizard of Oz, my favorite movie. But since some of the other studio series figures stunk, that's why I picked the Kingdom because I think all the Kingdom toys are pretty badass. Just, they're really well done. Some of them can be a little pricey, but for the most part, they're on average. The average size ones are fairly reasonable, but they're just like, I love Transformers. I love the show, which I could have picked that too. The War for Cybertron trilogy. That was really well done. Also, but yeah, that's what I picked. Because I love Transformers. That's my jam from when I was a kid, and never really changed my tune on those. I think they're really awesome figures. They always have been, and I think they always will be as long as the quality is there.
I also picked Transformers, but I did more specifically the collab series they've been doing. They've been picking some really great franchises, and they did a Jurassic Park 2-pack, where one is the Tour Jeep, the Ford Explorer. And apparently his name is Autobot JP93, which is a really boring name. And then the other one is Tyrannicon Rex, which is essentially just a repaint from the Beast Wars Megatron. But, you get a T-Rex too. So, who doesn't love that?
And Tyrannicon's a pretty cool name.
Tyrannicon Rex is a rad name. I do like it. But the collaborative series has been really good. Like, I love Gigawatt. I love Ectotron. So I kind of really want to pick this one up. I love the packaging. Is the T-Rex escape scene. It even has like a fake other Ford Explorer for Tyrannicon to be standing on. Obviously, I've talked about this many times on the podcast. Jurassic Park's one of my favorite movies ever. And Transformers toys, are always fun. So I'm really excited that they did Jurassic Park and it wasn't just the Jeep Wrangler, which is what I thought it was going to be, which would have been cool. But like these ones are much more iconic for Jurassic Park, in my opinion. But all right, so next up is Best Comic. We have two categories left, Best Comics and Best Video Games. So let's start, who haven't we started with yet? Start with Molly for this one.
I picked Crush and Lobo. I used to hate Lobo like a lot because I just thought he was like an annoying character, and I don't typically read like, isn't he like a Superman villain normally?
He's kind of just an everywhere guy. I know he was in the Superman
Green Lantern,
cartoon.
I think.
Yeah, he's kind of everywhere.
I just always thought he was annoying, but I like Crush, like, and the look of her. I actually didn't know she was in Teen Titans until I was starting to read it. So there's that. And she's like super alternative and like actually the complete opposite of Lobo, which is probably why I liked it so much. So why I picked it.
Yeah, Crush and Lobo is one of those books I wish I didn't sleep on because the art in it's always great. Crush seems like a lot of fun.
Mhm.
I also don't like Lobo. I don't like ultra edgy anti-heroes. I feel like they're like designed for like 16-year-olds, and
Yeah.
then they want me to take them seriously.
I just feel like
Um,
he's just an annoying character, like in general. Like he's just very, very annoying. And
Yeah.
like she's so opposite and she has like a lot of dimension to her. She has like a girlfriend in the comic and it's really, really cute. And I hope that like the end of it is them getting back together. That would be nice.
Yeah. Yeah. I think as of this recording, I think the last issue came out today or is coming out next week.
I
think
maybe.
it must be next week then. See, this is what I'm saying. Like I make the comics so far in advance that like I start to forget when things come out and when they don't. But I know it's an 8-issue series and it's just wrapping up. So you can catch up on the whole thing now, or by the time you hear this, you'll be able to catch up on all of it. Let's see. Let's go to Greg next.
This year I chose Boom Studios, the Comic 7 Secrets. It came out, started last year, I think, or 2 years ago, but like it's been consistently good. It's written by Tom Taylor, who's done a bunch of stuff. Like I talked about earlier, he's done Deceased. I know he's up for Marvel and DC and stuff. But basically it's like basically it's about this secret cabal of people called the keepers of the secret or something like that, and there's keepers and holders, and basically there's the keeper is the really badass person who could kick anybody's ass, karate, yada yada, and the keeper is the guy who holds holder holds the secret, whatever it might be. But basically it's like high adventure. Think of like Indiana Jones on steroids, just because like it's way over the top of the action. The artist Danielle Denucci, I think is his name. Like the action flows really well. It kind of almost looks like a cartoon, but it's really well done. The secret organizations trying to keep these secrets away from the bad guys. Again, it's kind of tropey, but the way they did it, I thought was pretty interesting, and it revolves around the son of one of two of like the ultra cool badass I forget what they're called again, but like the people who kick ass really, really bad, and he joined it, and that's basically, it revolves around his like view of like what's going on, is the best way I can explain it, and I did a terrible job of that, but that's okay.
That's fine. Let's see who we want to do next. Let's do Harry next.
So my pick is kind of a cheat because it hasn't really released yet. I picked Marvel's Voices Heritage #1, which is it's the latest entry in the Marvel Voices series, which is an anthology series that spotlights particular creators of a particular background. For example, they've done African American creators and characters, LGBTQ creators and characters. And this one will be for Indigenous creators and characters. It was delayed to January, but I thought I'd put it on the list. We've already had Marvel doing a version of this. They did the Indigenous Voices comic in 2020, end of 2020. So I thought it was really cool for them to bring this concept back. And I just, I put it on here because just the idea of the big two, because DC also has its pride issues as well, giving creators a chance to sort of break out and put out some work for them, add them to their resumes. It's a huge deal for these creators, and also for comic book customers who identify with any of these specific backgrounds, for them to be able to see characters that represent them, written and drawn by people with their background. I think that's really cool. I think that's something that, Miles Morales, for example, has shown that there's an appetite for that in the community. And I encourage, Marvel and DC to keep taking these kinds of shots and putting these kinds of books out there, because they really do mean a lot to the community.
Yeah, I know. I appreciate, like the LGBT stuff. They haven't done a Jewish heritage one yet because I just want to see a story with the Thing. But I guess he's got his own book. So
I mean, there's great characters they could work with.
Yeah. Let's see. Let's do Danny next.
I chose Many Deaths of Lila Starr. This one's a little biased since it was, I think, the first comic series I picked up at Level Up. But I kept staring at the cover for like a week and was just finally like, okay, I guess I'll get it. Just because the artwork was so beautiful, and I was like, I have to see what this is about. It's basically the god of death. She gets fired from her job since there's a human that was just born who's going to invent immortality. And she doesn't want to lose her job and like her purpose and everything. So she ends up going down to Earth in this now deceased woman, Lila Starr's body, to basically kill the person who's going to invent immortality or try to stop them from creating it. And it just is kind of like, it's a short series. It's like 6 issues. But it's just kind of like her going through a journey of like where she discovers her own meaning for life and death and things. And just really nice artwork. It was nice for me as a newbie to follow, since it was, while it was like a continuing story, it was still very much episodic, which was nice. And just, I like things that talk about like death as a concept. So it was just really interesting and cool. I definitely recommend it to anyone who likes good artwork and exploring those kinds of topics.
All right, we'll do a John, who picked one of the ones that was in contention for me, but John got it.
Yeah, I picked TMNT: The Last Ronin. This book has been pretty good so far. It's been out for a while, and I don't know when it's going to wrap up.
The last issue I think was just solicited for February.
Oh, okay, great. Yeah, so
it was in a recent previews, is what I remember.
Yeah, I mean, I would suggest to people who are interested in reading this to just kind of wait for the trade paperback when it comes out. But it's been a really good book so far. It's been something different. It's a darker twist for TMNT lately, and it's pretty good. I like the art a lot, and the writing, the pacing's pretty good. I have to catch up. I'm like an issue behind right now. But yeah, it's been a really good book so far.
I say the only thing I don't like about it is the release schedule.
Yeah, honestly, that's the only downside of this book is just having to wait for the next issue.
Yeah, it comes out like once every 2 months.
Yeah, because it started. I think the first issue came out in November of 2020, and they're only on issue 4 of 5 now.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's about the only issue with the book is the release schedule.
Yeah, I think when it's done and we can look back at the whole series, we should definitely have a discussion about it.
Yeah, I would love to read this in trade, honestly, because it's it's just something that you should probably read.
I've also been reading it as it's coming out. I have a feeling like once it's done, I want to sit down and read it front to back.
Yeah, absolutely. Especially because it's the first book in a while to have Kevin Eastman and Peter Laird back on TMNT. I think like as a duo again.
Yeah, I almost forgot this was the thing that kind of brought them back together. Because that's how it was usually announced. It just said Eastman Laird.
Right.
Like, oh no, they haven't worked together in like 20 years. But yeah, it's exciting, and it's kind of like if Frank Miller wrote Ninja Turtles, if that is a selling point for you. Normally wouldn't be for me, but it works. So take that as you will. Now let's go. Oh, sorry. Let's go over to Joe.
Well, I could have won with Last Ronin as well, or Stray Dogs and all that kind of stuff. I went with Legends of the Dark Knight. It's a Batman book. I started reading comics again this year, and my gateway into getting back into books is Batman, because I love Batman. I love the 60s Batman. What I love about this book is that they're not. I don't have to I can read, what do we have? 6 or 8 just came out. I can read 5, I can read 6, I can read 7, and I don't need to be like, oh, I missed 4 or catch up. It's like they're each each comic is like almost like an episode. There's a couple where it was like 2 or 3 together, but like, I don't have a ton of time during the day. I don't have a ton of time when I get home. So it's like I can read the one story and get my feel where it feels like Batman. It feels like watching like an episode of a Batman, like the animated series, or something it just feels like Batman, not anything too crazy. It's just Batman. And I've always loved Batman, so it'll always pull me in. And you can get it. You have it at the store. Come pick it up. It's good. I recommend it for anyone who wants to get in and likes Batman.
And what's nice is you can just pick up any issue you see.
Yeah, and then if you love it, I mean, they had other runs back, in the 80s and stuff, but this run I think is great. It's really enjoyable.
Yeah. So I have to do an honorable mention with mine because it was very tight for my picks. Ultimately, I went with Nocterra over Geiger because I think Nocterra it's an easier sell. But they're both post-apocalyptic stories. Nocterra is essentially like Mad Max meets like a horror movie. So the basic premise in it is one day nobody knows why this happened, but the entire world went dark, and anything that spends so much time in the darkness gets corrupted and turned into a monster. So the whole world, like the currency in the whole world, is like light, and the main character is a trucker because truckers are super important now because they move people from like one settlement to the next, and that's how you can get like food and supplies. And then the basics, the inciting incident is they pick up a grandfather and his granddaughter, and then turns out they're wanted by some other people, and they get kind of caught up in an adventure. And it's really, really cool. It's Scott Snyder writing, Greg Capullo on art. So, that classic New 52 Batman team's back. So if any of that sounds even remotely exciting, you'll probably really dig it. The first trade paperback is out, so it's easy to catch up on. And then, I really enjoyed it, and I can't wait to see where it goes, which is the best thing you can say about an ongoing comic series. And then the last category we hear is doing best video games. I'm going to start with Harry because both Harry and Becca had the same pick, and since she's not here to talk about it, I'll let him talk about it.
All right, sounds good. My choice was Monster Hunter Rise on the Switch. I was a gamer that I've always heard of, like the Monster Hunter thing, and like everybody who plays it was like really deep into it. They're on the subreddits and always talking about got to jump on and join me in hunts, and I never quite understood it. And my entry into the series was Monster Hunter World, which was on PS4, and I enjoyed it. Like, it was a great game, beautiful. But the load times, it took forever. It seemed like to jump into the game and really get going. This game on the Switch took everything that I really liked about Monster Hunter World and kind of condensed it down, and it being on a Switch cartridge, that there were virtually no load times. You can jump in and play, and it's everything that everybody talks about. I could finally see sort of what people really enjoyed about this game. It's an action adventure game where you're kind of challenging yourself to go out and defeat these giant bosses, and it's sort of the benefit is that when you defeat them, you have to learn their patterns, you have to learn their habitats and fighting styles and all that, and then when you defeat them, you get to essentially carve these monsters up to improve your armor and improve your weapons, and it gives you a different visual look to your armor that incorporates some of the pieces, like a jawbone will be your sword and things like that. And it was really, really cool. And and that community is there. There's always people that are willing to teach you more about Monster Hunter, what monsters to go hunt, join them in hunts, how to improve your items. It's a really welcoming community, and I think the Switch Monster Hunter Rise game is a really good jumping on point for people too, who may be new to the series.
All right. And I kind of want to go with Molly next because visually it's the most distinct of all of these games.
I went with Pokemon Snap because I played the original on 64, and the minute that I saw that they were, I don't want to call this like remaster because it's like a completely different game, because they add like a bunch of different new elements, and they also added all kinds of new Pokemon in there because there's been several new regions that have been explored and all that added to the Pokedex. So I went with that one because it's good. It's really, really good. It's really long. I still have not finished it. But I feel like Pokemon's also very safe game to pick too, because there's usually several of them that come out during the year. I have not picked up. I get the name wrong. Yes, that one.
Yep.
Yeah, but I probably will at some point. But that's my pick.
I will say, because new Pokemon Snap's one of the few games I did play this year. And I love the selection of Pokemon they did. It's not just all like the classic, most popular Pokemon. They have a lot of ones that are off the beaten path that I really like.
It's a beautiful game.
Oh, it's great. Yeah.
Oh, it's really gorgeous.
I play it and I'm like, why can't the regular games look like this?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a whole different conversation. But yeah, it's a really great game. And if it's something, I also grew up playing the N64 game. And, it's amazing it took this long for another Pokemon Snap.
Yeah, I was surprised by that there hasn't been any other iteration of it besides the 64 version. So I was like, all right, that's awesome. And also I think the last newest Pokemon game that I played was Let's Go Eevee, which was good, but I feel like it was such a short game.
Yeah, it's because it was a Game Boy game. Those are really small.
Yeah.
But
it was cute too, but I think that the Snap is my new thing. I go back and forth between that and Animal Crossing. That's pretty much my two go-tos at this point.
There's worse things you could be doing. Let's stick with the Switch and let's talk to John real quick.
Oh man, I have so many good things to say about this game. I played a lot of games this year, and honest to God, Ghost of Tsushima was gonna be my game of the year. But man, Metroid Dread is so good. Funny enough, an hour before hopping on this podcast, I just beat the game, or at least the main story. It's really good. It's a great game for anybody who's looking to jump on to the Metroid lore. If you've never played a Metroid game, this is probably the game you should start with. If you have a Switch, it's just a fun game. The combat is really good in this game. The way Samus can move is really smooth, and it feels fast. And there's a lot of bosses in this game, and it's really hard. I did play. I'm pretty new to the Metroid games now, but I played Super Metroid earlier this year, and that game is really good as well. But I find that game more difficult when exploring, whereas this game I find more difficult when it comes to boss battles and fighting the different bosses that you fight, because you fight a lot. You fight about, I want to say anywhere from 12 to 16 different bosses, and the level progression gets harder and harder as you explore this planet of ZDR and the different environments it has. The graphics are great in this game, and the cinematic cutscenes are really cool. I'm not sure if it's the first Metroid game to have cutscenes, but man, this game is so good. Whether you're playing it on your TV with a dock or in handheld mode, this is definitely an essential game for the Nintendo Switch, and it was by far the best game I've played in 2021.
I will say I'm glad it was as well received as it has been, because as a Super Metroid fan and Zero Mission and Fusion, the 2D Metroid games kind of get lost in the shuffle of everyone grinning over Prime. And I'm not a Prime player because the first person just doesn't work for me. So the idea that 2D game can be this great and this well received gives me hope that they'll do more Metroid games like this in the future, and maybe even more, other games of that genre again. So
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, it took a long time for them to make this game, I guess, because the last 2D Metroid game was Fusion that came out. I don't know when. I think it was like 2002 or 3.
it was a while.
Yeah,
ago.
it's been a while since Fusion. Let's see. Let's move on to Greg next.
Oh, well, actually, it's kind of good because jumping off the back of John, I was waiting for Metroid Dread to come out, and I was looking for a Metroidvania style game, and I ran across Blasphemous, which is a horror take on like I guess horror take is Castlevania too, but like it's more like it's like there's a lot with like religion and theology, and you're kind of like in limbo of some sort of purgatory. I'm not 100% sure if they explain it. I haven't been. I'm right near the end. But it plays real well. It has the I can't say 8-bit graphic, like 16-bit graphic style. Has like some really cool cutscenes in it. But it plays exactly like any other Metroid or Castlevania game. Where you go around hunting for power-ups, but they have some really cool, interesting. You get like a rosary bead. You can equip different things on it to do different effects that lead to effects. There's all kinds of bonuses to find. The boss battles are extremely hard. There's not as many. There's probably about 7. But the one really cool thing about this game is that there was actually 3 very large free DLC downloads, and the last one just came out, and it actually added a whole new section to the game, and added a bunch of more collectibles and stuff like that. And in the second expansion, they brought in the character, I forget her name off the top of my head, the main character from Bloodstained, which is another Metroidvania style game, which I thought was a pretty cool collaboration. But it was a really neat game. There's a sequel coming out in 2022 or 23, but they did a really good job with this game again, and it was cheaper. It cost, I think it goes for about $30 right now. I got it on sale for less than that, but I would highly recommend it if you're looking for another Metroidvania style game.
Okay. Let's see. Let's hit Danny up next.
I chose Eastward. I'm not sure. I don't remember the developer this time, but I know it's an indie game. And I saw the preview for it when Indie World had done it, and immediately the graphics are it's a really beautiful pixel game. Like it almost looks like it's a painting with how well they've done like the pixels, artwork and everything. It's really beautiful. But basically it's kind of a post-apocalyptic type game. You're a miner named John, and in the opening cutscene, you stumble upon a girl named Sam who has psychic powers. So you're trying to kind of figure out like what her deal is. But the game's really good at setting up the world and like intriguing it, because there's different things that are going on where you're like, oh, what's that about? Like, what is this like Dark Cloud or Pluto Charon thing that they're talking about? And it's very charming. Like it has a lot of like, I think it's been compared to like older Zelda games and some like Ghibli kind of feeling, where it's very charming. Like the gameplay is very much like a top-down Zelda game. And all the characters, like all the side characters and like even just the NPCs have like a lot of different personality, and just it's fun. There's even a game inside the game called Earthborn, which is just an Earthbound parody, but it's
awesome.
like a full game in itself. It's not a perfect game, but it's definitely something I wish more people played, even just to stare at the graphics and just, I want to talk about it. There's a lot of really good stuff in this game, and I hope that they continue to expand on it, or at least give us some DLC, because I will put some money down for that.
Okay. Sounds good. Definitely in getting images and stuff for our picks. I was like, oh, this game looks really cool.
Yeah, I was stoked when I saw the trailer for it. I'm like, I got to pick it up, and I did. Just haven't had a chance to play it yet, but really want to.
Definitely play it. Let me know what you think.
I will. So I'm not being Blasphemous. That's next on my list.
All right.
All right, we're almost done. How about you, Joe? What's your game of the year here?
Well, I couldn't pick the game that I usually play all of the time, even though they did have a release this year. I always played Binding of Isaac. It's my game of choice. They did a release. That's my honorable mention. What I did pick was Death's Door. It's an indie title. It's more like an action adventure game, almost in the Zelda vein of Link to the Past and things like that, which is right up my alley. You play as a crow who is there to reap souls of different creatures and animals. You try to figure out where you're going, and it's a beautiful game. Music is kind of subdued, very bleak, but like just the way the graphics are, you're kind of exploring in a sense of almost like a Metroidvania to try to build up your stats and stuff. And then it is hard. Like you get hit 4 times, you're dead. And it literally just pops up on the screen, death. And then you start over from where you were. And it's just like, it's super hard, super difficult, but it's that type of super hard and difficult where like you learn like the maneuvering of like a boss. Like it's almost, don't want to say the trope of it's like, Dark Souls, but it's in that same vein of like, you learn from your mistakes each time you play. Therefore you learn, oh, when this creature does this, you got to move that way. And it's engaging. It's one of my go-to games to play every now and then. Like I'll put it on and I'll play a little bit of it, get farther and farther, and then I always fall back on Isaac because it's mindless. It's my 10-minute game, but no, it's a great game. I recommend picking it up. It's on all platforms. It's on PS4, PS5, Switch. It's everywhere. It's a great game. It's a beautiful game. View the trailer, you'll get hooked.
Well, we all picked very pretty games this year because my game of the year was Joe's game of the year last year.
Still so good.
There's no competition for me this year, even though it didn't come out last year. This is the first game in a long time where, like, when I'm not playing it, I'm thinking about playing it. Like Joe can attest, I played it over the summer, and like I'd be at work and just talking to him, like, if I do this and that in Hades, like I would just not stop talking about it. And then when I get home, I'd get sucked into that gameplay loop and just play it over and over and over again. Which is amazing because this genre of game is like one of my least favorites to get into. I do not like roguelikes. And just the simple fact that like there's a lot of permanent upgrades you can do. Like I'm always working towards something, I feel like. And then, even though, you die a lot, like you do get better at it. And like, because I'm constantly being rewarded with stuff that's not fleeting, I feel like putting the effort in is worth it. Plus, the game looks amazing. The characters and dialogue is so good, and the story is shockingly compelling. Just everything in it is just firing on all cylinders from beginning to end. I actually did try to 100% complete it, but the RNG is just the nature of it. Is just like I'm like missing 1 or 2 fish. I'm just like, I'm done. I'm not trying to get them anymore. Like I'll go insane trying to get the last couple of rare fish in it. But like, wow, what a great game. I really wish I played it when it came out and everyone was talking about it. But I'm glad I played it now, and I highly recommend it to anyone who hasn't played it yet.
Yeah, this game is on sale right now, I think, too, in certain stores. I think it's around like $20 right now. That's what I picked it up for recently, and man, it's fun. It's addicting.
Yeah, I think it's on sale in the eShop right now too.
Yeah, the gameplay loop is sucks it in so hard.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and it's kind of cool. Like you just start out, you don't really know what's happening. All of a sudden you die, and then you end up in the realm of Hades, and you just go from there. And it's a constant loop. But it always changes. Like the map always changes too. It doesn't ever feel stale.
Yeah. I mean, I've played it so much now that like I desperately want them to add DLC just so there's more like mobs. It's not just the same guys every once in a while, but like that's just because I played it so many times. I've done like hundreds of runs in it. I'm sure Joe feels probably the same way about Isaac at this point sometimes.
Yeah, I mean, I've put a couple thousand hours into Isaac, not the bad, but yeah.
You know, Isaac keeps doing like expansions and adding more stuff to it. I don't know how they would do that with Hades because of the story, but like I would even just love just like a boss rush mode where they just add like 50 bosses that you just fight them. It's just without the story context. Like that would be awesome.
They could do that. You just put a different room off the main area, and it's like the trials or something. And
Yeah, and it's just like you fight all the greatest heroes in Greek mythology. It's just like it's Hercules and all these other people that are
easy way to
oh,
do it.
that'd be awesome. But yeah, so that's gonna do it for our game of the year discussion, or not, you know, our best of the year discussion. Looking forward to 2022, I guess, just because that's how time works, so I kind of have to. But I don't offhand, I don't think there's anything like I was personally like dying with anticipation for. But that's also just because it's late and I'm forgetful, and sure someone will put in the comments like, oh yeah, that I definitely want that.
Breath of the Wild 2.
Yes.
If it comes out,
Wait.
Oh my gosh, please.
I'm not getting my hopes up where it's coming out next year until I start seeing like a trailer. We don't even know the title. I'm trying to temper expectations. But I am excited for it's. I'm excited for a new Zelda, regardless of whatever is happening. But yeah, so I think that'll end us tonight. Does anyone have anything they want to plug? Danny, and do you have any Twitter or Instagram or stuff people want to follow you at?
Yeah, you can follow me at Spiral Sketches on Twitter, Instagram. I make stickers. If you look at the sticker board in the store, it's like a lot of my stuff's on there. But yeah, if you could give me a follow, that would be awesome. Thank you.
I don't know if anyone has anything beyond the store stuff to plug. Take that as a no. So yes, you can follow us at levelupentertainment.com or on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Level Up Entertainment. We have 2 locations, one in the Hamilton Mall in Mays Landing in New Jersey, and our new store we mentioned a couple times in Summers Point. So yeah, follow us there, and then obviously you listen to this podcast, so it's at the places where you can listen to podcasts, YouTube, iTunes, all those places. You know, like and share with friends. Definitely let us know in whatever comment section you have access to right now. What are the obvious things that we were dumb for not bringing up? You know, for TV shows or whatever. Yeah, definitely looking forward to seeing you guys again. Well, the next episode we'll definitely do is going to be Spider-Man related. We'll just have to figure out when we're going to record that off air. So that'll end us for tonight. Thanks to everyone for joining me. I know it's getting late, and a couple of us are old, so we're very tired. So next time, everyone be safe.